Greetings, fellow armchair Amazonians. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And welcome to the Main Street Cinema, the show where we discuss the finer points on filmmaking. And much like everything else here on the So You Want to Be an Imagineer channel, Dragon, we are at least a week late to this, but we are getting to it. We are going to give you guys a full-blown Wonder Woman spoiler cast over the next hour and a half or so. So let's jump right into it, Dragon. Dragon, how about we do our, our typical expectations and whatnot, and then in between that and going into the three acts, we'll get your background in there. How about that?
Okay.
All right. So expectations and thoughts coming out, folks. I'm having a difficult time with this movie, and so much of a difficult time that I was reluctant to even do this podcast. Now, I got to admit, even sitting down here to record this, getting behind the microphone and everything, I'm still a little bit hesitant. Because my expectations for this movie were a little off base because they were colored by the opinions of one Mark Andreyko. Now, Dragon, of course, you pointed out to me, this guy is a, Wonder Woman's kind of his life. He's a big Wonder Woman writer and everything. Big Wonder Woman fan. Mark Andreyko was on Movie Fights, and he fought for this movie to be the best DC movie ever. So that meant he had to fight against the original Superman, Dragon. That meant he had to fight against the Dark Knight, and this guy was just on fire, and he won the fight, Dragon. I think he won the fight very, very reasonably because he just had so much passion for it.
Well, actually, I think it was an even harder fight because it was Wonder Woman versus Dark Knight versus Mask of the Phantasm. That's a possible one.
You're right.
Those are Dark Knight and Mask of the Phantasm, the two best Batman movies. Come on.
And so it was Andreyko mixed with a lot of other people, mixed with just oh my God, Wonder Woman. There's just this hype and aurora surrounding this movie. You know what I mean? Just whole it was basically setting me up where it's it could never be as good as what I was kind of hoping and expecting it to be. So I went in, I saw it, and it was a good movie. I mean, Dragon, I'm going to be saying that a lot through this podcast. It was a good movie. I don't think this is a great movie. I think it has flaws. I definitely think the third act is very, very troubled. I think the villains are pretty weak overall. I don't think some of the humor in this movie lands. But I like it. It's a good movie. Now, Dragon, let's just get the big elephant in the room out of the way right now. I hate to get political with this, folks, but I know that people are overhyping this movie based on the whole, the first women superhero that's very successful and actually a really good movie. And while I do agree, Dragon, I think that is something to be celebrated. I'm not the type of guy who's going to take those sort of external politics and work them directly into my feelings of the movie. So while it is great that we do have a female-led superhero movie, that is a very good movie. That's what it is. It's a good movie. You know what I mean? I'm not over the moon about this thing. I do certainly think it's the best DC movie since The Dark Knight, although granted there's not a lot of competition there. But overall, like I said, I like this movie. I certainly don't love it. I'm certainly not over the moon about it like a lot of people are, and that's why I was kind of hesitant to talk about it to begin with, folks. Please don't hate me for liking it instead of loving it. Okay. Dragon?
All right. Well, going into it, just my expectations is all the stuff kind of surrounding is, I hoped, I had two hopes really, just two kind of barometers for it. One, I'm just buying into kind of any, the expectation collectively, just what the best case scenario this could be. It could be for the DCU going forward, it could be kind of their Captain America type franchise. It could be sort of, because Wonder Woman, in addition to this kind of being the first, one of the landmark female superheroes, would also be in fact she's very, very patriotic. It's usually it's her, Superman, and Captain America, kind of the trio, kind of uber patriotic
right.
characters. Then you go down the line, then you get Spider-Man, you get other characters, and nowadays the modern day one would probably be Iron Man, even though he's not even red, white, and blue. But you know what I mean?
Sure.
So I'm just saying, it's. So again, optimistically, it being set around World War One, and saying it could be kind of a. Ideally, it would be kind of a Captain America First Avenger type film. So, I mean, that was the best case scenario for the film I was thinking going into. It was but also the only barometer I really had, and I think just something to bear in mind, the only barometer we've really had for a full-length Wonder Woman movie. Don't get me wrong, we saw on Batman v Superman, but that was kind of more of a third act appearance. That's just been kind of.
It was a little taste.
exactly. We got a taste of Wonder Woman. But the animated film that came out in 2009, and this was a big deal for the longest time because again, it was like the first full length Wonder Woman thing we had, and the anime film was also pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think the animated film, just by its own limitations, it's really good. I think it gets into the character stuff a little better than this does, in all honesty.
Yeah, because the thing is,
I mean, I think the characters of Diana and Trevor are explored better in this one, but of course, that's to be expected because because Diana and Trevor are the main characters, and this is a 2.5-hour movie and whatnot. However, Dragon, I think the thing that the animated film really excelled in is that they kept the Amazonian stuff all the way through the movie, which I kind of wish this movie would have tried a little bit harder to do, and we'll get into that as we break it down, especially when it comes to the third act and the way the villain was represented, which is like my main flaw with the movie. But
yeah, well, just with the animated film, there's two things that the main strength in the animated film is that for the longest time, unless you're really really a big fan of the Wonder Woman episodes of Justice League the animated series, we really had never gotten kind of the backstory of Wonder Woman. Like everyone, the genesis of that movie is we know the backstory of Batman and Superman like the back of our hands. What the heck is Wonder Woman's story? We never really know that. So that's kind of what that movie's predicated on. The reason why it's like I don't know why it's the only other one we can really compare like a full length Wonder Woman movie to. Being an animated film under the DC Direct line, it's it's going to be shorter. It's like 75 minutes versus kind of like your 2 hour, or in this case, I think like 2 hour 20-minute film. So they have more time to kind of get in like Steve Trevor and Diana and stuff. But yeah, I'm just saying there's going into it very much kind of like with Suicide Squad. I had an anime movie to measure that by with Assault on Arkham. So going into one, again, best case scenario, first Avenger that would also measure up to the animated film. But essentially going into it, those are my two kind of my points to hit. And again, looking at just what to expect with Wonder Woman herself. I mean, we liked Wonder Woman in Batman v Superman, and of course she had very awesome themes. I mean, just that was just going to hype me up. Like, oh yeah, I mean, this could be really good. I mean, I'm hoping it's going to be good. I'll admit, along with Kevin Smith, I was skeptical of the World War I choice. I didn't think it was like going to tank the movie or anything. I was like, yeah, why not go with World War II? I don't get it. But seeing it in
I honestly
context,
think the reason they didn't go with World War II is because World War II is Captain America's playing field.
Yes, I agree with that. Yes, exactly. I mean, sorry, that was the point I was going to make. Yeah. But yes, absolutely. I mean, in context of the film, that makes absolute sense. It's close combat. It's very much so. Yeah, Captain America kind of has a kind of a mulligan on the on World War II. Just he kind of owns World War II, and it's also kind of the competition between the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the DCU, where they don't want to repeat each other too much. They're trying to differentiate things, which in this case I think worked for Wonder Woman's benefit. They made it work enough.
Yeah.
Let's see. Overall, I was hoping for. Going into it, I was also preparing for the worst. I was hoping for the best, but expecting another result that would require a lot of like looking to the bright side. Well, at least we got this.
Oh God!
So I was prepared for that. Like, well, I mean, again, it's probably gonna be it could have been the first Avenger.
This is not a Man of Steel like divisive as fuck movie. I'll say that right.
That's what I'm saying. I was prepared for that outcome of like having to defend. Just like, why can't I just get a Wonder Woman movie where she's saving women and children? I just want that, man. That's all I want in this world. Right. Where she saves people. And the reaction coming out of it is I had a really good time with it. It surpassed my expectations, I gotta say. Because I don't know, I think there's differences to be had between the animated film and this film. But again, I think this film gets into a lot of really good stuff. And basically, it's. With Assault on Arkham, I just needed to be half as good as the animated film, and it was. But this is like as good as the animated film, if not a little better.
Right.
What I liked about it too is a few very quick points. I think it was in the spirit of the Donner films and like kind of by the modern day filmmaking of today, it was at least in the spirit of the Richard Donner.
I think Superman. It kind of accomplished that same Donner tone that that Superman Returns was trying to go for. But it did a better modern day interpretation of it, where Superman Returns was sort of just like a, kind of a copy and paste, sort of like Zack Snyder adapting panels of a comic book sort of deal.
Yeah, I mean, this tonally felt like uplifting and hopeful, like a Donner film, and it had like a few winks and nods, like the Donner Superman film here and there. So I mean, there were those touches, and it was a lot brighter, like not only visually, but I'm saying brighter in terms of the other ones have always been kind of like dark and like, hey, we're tackling villains, hey, we're tackling a lot of death and controversy, hey, we're
Which, thank
cynicism.
God, because Dragon, I just remember the day that DC released the like, oh, there's never going to be a joke in a DC movie. I'm like, you fools, you fools.
So and overall, for me at least, and we'll break this down as we go through. Just for me, going out of it, I'm still bear in mind I want to see this more than the one time I have to wait on that. But just going out of it, I don't really see glaring flaws. I just see a lot of bear in mind nitpicks and threads definitely the pull. Like if you really wanted to pull them, then you could see a flaw. But I'm saying like they weren't like glaring flaws. Like a lot.
Oh,
like,
I think my flaws are more glaring.
I'm saying we didn't have any.
Say my flaws are in the glaring category.
Well, fine, we'll get there. I'm just saying for me at least, I didn't see like nothing that for me kills the movie. Like really kind of halts me at a certain point. Well, again, so again, it's. It's basically for me. The last thing to say is it was like this movie felt like getting another bite at the apple with since Man of Steel, like another like, hey, we're going to kind of introduce people to the DC, the DC cinematic universe where they're going to.
This would be actually a much better introduction to the DCU.
Exactly,
Man of Steel would be.
It kind of felt like kind of a do-over from that almost. It felt like this would have been kind of like another like version of, hey, I'm going to introduce you to kind of this what the DC universe is going to all about, but through a different character.
Right, right.
Anyway, so that's just my reaction coming out of it. So I guess.
Quick background.
Okay, I'm gonna go through this as quickly as possible. Essentially, there's been attempts at a Wonder Woman movie since '96, and of course, these are during the days of the death of
Dark times
of Superman Lives and Batman and Robin. So these obviously the returns on Warner Brothers weren't going. A lot of flops around Warner Brothers. So obviously, the Wonder Woman 1996 film probably wasn't able to get made because of that at the time. So it basically fell into development heck. So for a long string of time, kind of like what Deadpool was in. But I forget if it was in there. It's probably been in there for. Actually, it's probably been longer. Yeah. Oh my god.
I think it wasn't there longer than Deadpool. Yeah.
I'm just trying to think because Deadpool actually like they were trying to test footage and it's kind of hard to kind of. The point is like they were trying for this one for a long time. So, they did the same thing that kind of Donner. They basically tried doing things the hard way, like when they were doing the Donner Superman, they auditioned every name in Hollywood, every big name as well. They approached every big name, and that's kind of what they've been doing for Wonder Woman for a long time, which obviously was a mistake because with Superman they ended up getting an unknown, which they made.
Of course,
you go for the unknown who's going to represent the character, and essentially that's what we got here for Wonder Woman in the end of the day. But for the longest time, throughout the many years since '96 to now, they've been going after like Sandra Bullock, Catherine Zeta-Jones, even Mariah Carey. So
Oh God, not Mariah.
And Beyonce and like every name.
God. Oh no. Oh,
again,
shoot.
I'm just saying that's how much of an uphill battle. Again, that's like there was a time where Dustin Hoffman was considered for Superman. Oh no, wait, Dustin Hoffman was Luthor, but Paul Newman for Superman and Sylvester Stallone for Superman, like all sorts of different. Different big name actors, and eventually they end up on the actual one. So it's and the biggest thing that took this movie so long is that Wonder Woman, as you saw in the animated film, Wonder Woman's a hard character to nail down because she has a really complex background.
Yeah, she does.
And again, the animated film kind of hit upon like that's consistently it's usually kind of the go-to origin for one. But sometimes they've changed up, as you saw in this movie too. They kind of changed a few details. So sometimes she's immoral, sometimes she's there's also some feminist worries in terms of like bringing her to screen, like how much feminism do we have to infuse in the plot. So I'm saying there were errors in Wonder Woman where they really were heavy on that. So there's always like a lot of takes to juggle with Wonder Woman.
Sure.
Lucy Lawless was interested. From Xena Warrior.
She would have been great back in the day. Yeah.
And she actually got the voice Wonder Woman in Justice League New Frontiers. I mean, she's a big fan, but one of the problems is based on that whole, like the issues of nailing the character down. It's like a lot of the takes at the time were they wanted her to be too perfect. She wasn't flawed enough. Lucy Lawless wanted her to be flawed, and they weren't kind of going for that. But, she says if they had her more of a human character, she could have taken on kind of the Superman issue. So then 2005, this is an important one. 2005, Joss Whedon was working on the film. Of course, Joss Whedon, kind of the master of writing the female character. Of course, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, got Serenity, Angel, whole 9 years. So Joss Whedon was working on the film. He's a big Wonder Woman fan as well. So he was dedicated to get it on the level. He was dedicated to the point where it took too much time. It took for 2 years he worked on getting the perfect script, and because Joss Whedon's kind of a perfectionist with Wonder Woman, he wasn't going to cast Wonder Woman until he had the perfect script ready. I don't know if it was purely the studio just kind of cutting them loose. And that point is like just that he had other projects and stuff, so it kind of fell through. But Whedon was interested.
Mm-hmm.
So then, of course, and then just breezing past this, just there was a World War II version. Then there was one set like Whedon's was set in the modern day. Then they were going to go back to World War II, and then Paul Feig was interested in doing kind of a comedy action version. And then basically now we get to the modern point where okay, now it's the DCU's in the works. They announce, okay, now we're going to be doing this whole slew of films. We're going to build a cinematic universe. And then, of course, eventually we work Wonder Woman into Batman versus Superman, to build the Justice League. That's mainly the reason she's in there, is to kind of like, say, hey, we got more heroes on the way, and we can work her in there, get some action, get the Trinity going on there, and how can we compete with the Avengers? We get the Trinity in there.
Sure.
And this basically after her appearance there, we get a lot of interest in Wonder Woman, obviously, and it's the plan eventually for Wonder Woman. So we got to work on a Wonder Woman solo film. Let's put it for Justice League. And the big thing that none of the other films had is of the failed projects in development for Wonder Woman is that they're actually going after some female directors this time. And of course, the one that Tiki and I were privy to is that Michelle MacLaren.
Yeah, I remember back in the day.
And that was a very exciting choice because, of course, Michelle MacLaren, best known for Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad, yep.
Now,
they went the episode 8 route.
absolutely, and essentially, it seems it was reported there were creative differences, something about a tiger, just based purely on that. I'm very much. It's really hard to find out like what exactly her take on it was. There was like mention like working a tiger into it somehow, which I would. Here's my interpretation. I believe it's that she wanted to put a lot of emphasis on the Greek history and just kind of the Amazon stuff, which maybe. They just said maybe the take was a little bit different what they wanted to do because they wanted to work her into the outside world versus the Amazon stuff. I don't know. So then they go to the director of Monster, Patty Jenkins, who directed the film eventually and did an excellent job with it. And then Patty Jenkins, I want to say, had the prequel idea. Let's follow the following two comic book versions of Wonder Woman, following the original, which is William Moulton Marston, the guy who created her in the first place, so the old World War II stories of Wonder Woman, and George Perez, who Tiki essentially is responsible for all the Amazon Paradise Island stuff. He's like he's kind of the premier Wonder Woman artist, and he's the reason for why Themyscira looks the way it is in the movie, essentially.
Okay.
When they were casting Batman vs Superman, Elektra was considered for Wonder Woman. Elodie Young, she was almost going to be Wonder Woman.
Oh God!
So we could have had a Wonder Woman that sing, "Hello, Bruce, I'm here."
Oh God! Okay. I don't.
Thank you,
Dragon. I don't even we don't have time to go down that rabbit hole right now.
Okay, but I'm just saying it's kind of like a fun what if. So, but things worked out for her. She got Elektra, so it all worked out. And then she's a better version of Elektra. So I mean that kind of corrects other Elektra.
Sure.
In the end, just initially the very last thing. So initially Jenkins was skeptical of the Gal Gadot one because remember she's stuck with Gal Gadot.
As was everyone else. I remember being pissed about Gal Gadot. Legitimately, really? You're going with a supermodel, no actress from Fast and the Furious? Really?
Because you got to remember, when they're making this, at the point she's signed on to the project, I guess, she knows that she's stuck with Gal Gadot because she's already been cast as Wonder Woman in Batman vs Superman. So she's just she's rolling with it and just seeing where it's going to go. And as she made the movie, she's got to see her in action, kind of direct her, and she kind of saw her as kind of what I would still wager. I definitely agree. It's kind of like the Christopher Reeve Superman model. Yeah, she does very much she acts like Wonder Woman. She's kind of like a not a big name actor, kind of embodies the character. So. So yeah, it basically grew on the director even, and then it grew on all of us, and that's the story.
Yeah, okay. So Dragon, I hate to rush us, but we have about 20 minutes per act.
Okay, let's just fire into it. Act 1. So folks, we're gonna break this down. Act 1, essentially all the Paradise Island stuff. Act 1.
Yeah. So it's funny, Dragon. These DC movies, I feel like they get a lot of credit for their origin, Homeland stuff. There was a lot of praise, as divisive of a film as Man of Steel was. There was a lot of praise for the Krypton stuff.
Oh yeah.
And Dragon, I think this Paradise Island stuff is even stronger. I really, really like this opening. It's very unique. It's very visually stunning. I love the the blues of the water and everything like that. It kind of calls to mind 300, but in sort of a really sort of cool way and not a derogatory way. I really do like the use of Zack Snyder style slow-mo in the battle scenes here and everything like that. Of course, Dragon, I gotta say, I think my favorite character in the whole film is the aunt character. Let me see if I can say this name right. Let me see. Sorry. Anatope.
Yes.
Anatope. Okay, yeah, yeah. Dragon, I think yeah, Robin Wright as Anatope is she kicks ass, man. I would totally watch like a whole TV show centered entirely around her. Like
Let's not forget Robin Wright, excellent actress in House of
oh,
Cards.
of
If anyone's
course.
seen her on House of Cards, she's phenomenal.
I mean, there, it's just like I don't know, Dragon. There's just something about her delivery and the way that she carried herself in this movie that really just drew me to her. Like, yes, you are a badass.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So, let's talk about kind of our main two Amazons, because unfortunately the rest of them just kind of fall into like kind of the extra category, which is unfortunate. But again, they can't highlight every Amazon on the island, or else the movie's going to be way too long.
Unless
But
they wanted to do like a full-on Paradise Island origin movie, that's just Paradise Island.
well, exactly, and that would be cool. I'm just saying for the purposes
Uh,
of like Wonder Woman, you can't exactly say, oh, here's every single Amazon on the island.
right, right.
But something like the animated film did. My point of comparison here is like Artemis is like a notable Amazon in the Wonder Woman comics, and sometimes she's played differently. But I mean, the animated film has been my favorite version of Artemis, and that was also voiced by Rosario Dawson. Just a little fun little fact there.
Okay, nice.
And the point is, Artemis essentially the characterization of Artemis being kind of like the kind of the right hand to the queen, being the one that's kind of protects and trains Diana over the years, and it's kind of like her main job, and she's like the best warrior on Paradise Island. It's usually Artemis' shtick, and essentially it seems to me because I was wondering if Artemis was going to have like, as I knew she was going to be in the film, and they did cast someone as Artemis, just again didn't really do anything.
Right.
Again, the minute Robin Wright was announced, I had two roles in mind for her before they announced who she was. I was thinking, okay, please let her be Hippolyta. Please let her be Hippolyta,
Mhm.
or Artemis. And she wasn't either. But essentially, Anatope is Artemis. So she's characterized
yeah,
exactly.
Artemis's role, yeah.
And again, it might be like Artemis in the animated film was just kind of made to resemble the Anatope characters. Anatope is an existing comic character as well. She's the same role, just she's the aunt. She's she's the Aunt Hippolyta's sister. Just I don't know I'm not a huge Wonder Woman comics reader, so I just know her like in when her other appearances. The point
I'm sure Mark and Draco could tell us all about her.
certainly. But I would imagine again the George Perez run probably tells you all about the Amazons because again that's Perez's strong
right,
suit. But
right.
I'm in total agreement with you. I think that the characterization was excellent on these two, and I love Hippolyta. I love the human thing on Hippolyta where she knows her daughter is kind of destined for this purpose.
It's funny. It's like Hippolyta and Diana kind of have the Brave mother-daughter story arc in like 30 minutes, and it works better than it does in Brave.
That's kind of it's comparing different fruit steak. I don't think it's exactly the
No,
same.
I'm just saying it's we get a really good sort of like mother-daughter, like the mother's a little bit overprotective, that same sort of tropiness that works well in this sort of storytelling. I'm not about it.
As you gotta admit, let's get into a little bit of spoilers here without getting too into every single reveal. But of course, the Themyscira holds the God Killer, which of course is let me kind of splinter off here. Just talk about kind of our nice little history of the Amazon island here. We get the Paradise Island history lesson with that cool painting come to life image.
Mm-hmm.
You basically get the backstory, which essentially it's basically we see the fall of Mount Olympus essentially, where the backstory is Ares incited war amongst the gods, and Zeus kind of he basically tried to kill Ares, and if Ares were to ever come back, he knew he wounded him. He knew he probably didn't kill him. He'd probably come back. So he put a god killer with the Amazons, kind of the fiercest warriors, the fiercest Greek warriors. So if he returns, they'll just use the god killer on him. And of course, Diana is definitely the god killer. She doesn't know it. Of course, she thinks they sell her on it being a sword, which I thought was kind of a neat little twist of like, okay, this god killer sword, which is the sword we recognize from Batman v Superman.
Right.
Yeah. And in regards, it's like the idea that Hippolyta knows, like, my daughter's destined for this purpose of, like, she's essentially going to be fighting off against the god, which I don't want because I don't know if for all I know, she could get killed doing that. But regardless, I'm going to protect this kid with all I can. Hopefully, that purpose will never have to be fulfilled because if she never leaves the island, she never has to face Ares, so she'll be safe. That's why she doesn't want to train her to be a warrior, doesn't want to train everything. But Anatope convinces her, like, hey, she should be ready. The reason we have Wonder Woman is purely because of Anatope. She trains her. She's one saying if she trains her in secret, then she gets the permission from Hippolyta. It's all Anatope having the foresight of, like, this kid.
Yeah, it's all really good origin. It all goes by a very brisk pace. You know what I mean? Nothing's like, it doesn't feel like anything's lingered on longer than it needs to be. I like how we get from the child version of Diana, we get just like maybe like 5 to 10 minutes of that, and it sets up all we need to know about her personality as a kid, and then we go right into, like we go right through it, right into the training. I'd say this movie, in spite of having a 2.5 hour runtime, it has a really, really good pace to it all the way up until the third act. Then I'll talk about the third act from there. But I would say the first 2 hours of this movie are very, very, very well paced, Dragon.
And just one thing I just want to hit on is that, I really love young Diana. I really love young Diana. I think it's great kid acting, and she's cute and she's eager and all that stuff. And she's like mimicking the warriors fighting, and she's getting the shenanigans. She's exploring the island. Again, the beautiful island of Themyscira, which of course does look like paradise. Paradise that can kill you, but paradise nonetheless.
Right.
There's always like arrows flying through the air. It's like, oh yeah, they're trying to kill each other.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's kind of feeding into something I've really liked with the DCU. I love kind of seeing our young heroes, because at the beginning of Man of Steel had me, oh my God, Superman being born, and then of course the Batman origin from Batman v Superman,
of course.
The young kid acting. I just love how we start our heroes with them as kids. I just love how we keep kind of doing that in these movies.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so we already went through the Amazons, went through the history lesson. Just again, they're cool stand-ups being followed in Amazon, of course.
I guess you would get into Steve Trevor's introduction.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Let's get in. So we meet Steve Trevor in the traditional manner, which he this is how it usually always goes. The plane shot down, and he lands in the water. Diana, either he washes ashore, or in this case, Diana dives in and saves him.
Mm-hmm. Dragon, I gotta say, I really love how kinetic this whole action scene is, and how it leads right in from Trevor being rescued to the Germans invading the island. It's it's just all very well paced. Again.
Yes, and I tell you again, bear in mind, I'm not a huge Wonder Woman guy. Just like maybe on the animated movie and any animated appearance of Wonder Woman, I'm pretty much I know that stuff. So I know that stuff in a few of the comics, but it's I don't believe we've ever seen this the minute Steve Trevor lands, the people that are pursuing
I really like the urgency of that. Yes. I really like how it's like, it shows like the Amazonians are right to be skeptical of Trevor, because he's right there as other Amazonians are getting killed by other men.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's like in doing these little things like that to get all throughout. We're doing a fun subversion of kind of the negative feminist things that could happen with Wonder Woman, where it's like, okay, there's an instinctual hatred of men, or it's like we see there's an understandable reason for that stuff. There's an understandable confusion. Then we clarify it really quickly. We don't meander around a bit. Later on, he's getting the lie detector treatment. So it's all. We get that with the lasso of truth around them, we always do. But I'm saying we don't spend time there's not too much time of oh, we don't trust him. How do we know he's not lying to us? Well, we have a very obvious way of telling he's not lying to us. But either way, that action scene, this logical idea really entices me.
And like I said, this action scene is very much kind of perfected versions of what Zack Snyder wanted to do with 300.
Yes,
and 300 is a decent Snyder movie. I don't think it's aged all that well, but I just seriously, all the slow-mo and stuff like that, I just really think it's pulled off very effectively here.
Yeah, but with this beach battle here, just this, I just love that logic of what the thing that shot Steve Trevor down would probably still want to go after him, maybe. So
right.
I just had this idea of if they're following him, if he's done something that warrants being shot down, because then it could just be hey, enemy, move on. But in this case, it's a fun little take on that. What they're pursuing him, which would lead to an awesome Amazon battle. They're flipping over, and of course, Anatope does this thing where she shoots 3 arrows at a time. She goes,
yeah, that was awesome.
Calls. They use this clip on the talk show circuit, so I kind of knew a little. Okay. I didn't watch the whole thing. I just watched her calling for shield. She's running. I get what goes on here. But the coolest thing is whenever they jump down from somewhere, they do a turn in slow mo, and then they shoot arrows. That's awesome. The arrows, horses, and swords. That's the coolest Amazon fight scene.
Forget apes on horses, people. We have Amazonians on horses.
Yeah, but seriously, just the Amazon. That's the really cool thing about this battle is, it's them going up against these foreign weapons to them, which are guns and bayonets and stuff, and that is just really it's cool. It's
just visually very cool. It's it's not like other things you see in superhero movies. You know what I mean?
Exactly, and of course, it's the slow-mo shield runs up with one jump, flips over, and shoots the 3 in there. And of course, unfortunately, Anatope meets her demise at the end of a bullet, which it's kind of poetic too. Of course, Wonder Woman will not be susceptible to bullets, hence the bracelets. But just the fact, of course, that Anatope created Wonder Woman, yet because she is not Wonder Woman, she was kind of killed because of that. She's armed the next generation, so to speak, so she won't meet the same fate.
Mm-hmm.
I was saying kind of kind of nice there.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, Death of Manitope's a sad thing, and I guess maybe hit upon one or two things with Steve Trevor. I guess.
Sure, sure.
So again, the breaking out the lasso tree, that's a classic scene. It's like he was a spy,
Really
but
good comedy comes out of that. Of course, Chris Pine, very natural actor for the Steve Trevor character, I think.
absolutely, Chris Pine's just a good actor in general. I mean, if they really wanted, he could be like an excellent Hal Jordan. He's a really good Steve Trevor.
Uh-huh.
So, say of course the Amazon. Just one thing to hit upon here is that they kind of slowly kind of get us off to the next act, I guess.
Sure.
So obviously, to get, as you saw in the animated film, the way it goes in the comics always is that Steve Trevor crashes on the island, and they have to. They're kind of like they have an emissary contest. Like, okay, well, as Amazons, we have to send like an emissary to kind of take him back to his homeland. It's kind of the honorable thing to do. We're gonna have a contest to see who gets to do it. Who gets the essentially don the Wonder Woman suit and kind of take him back. Well, that's kind of usually the way it goes, and and the contest is famous for that's where the origin of the bulletproof bracelets comes. The last trial of the things they put on the bracelets and they dodge
Right.
bullets. In the movie's case, it was arrows, and in this movie, they completely subverted that. Of like, we're going to cut through that because people might be expecting that, even if they're not. Just what, we're going to save time here. We know eventually she's going to be picked for it, and we know we still have the same thing where the mother instinctually knows my daughter's destined to do this.
I applaud that direction, Dragon. I really do applaud that direction because, like you said, it's sort of just like delaying the inevitable if we had to sit through and I think I kind of think like the battle on the beach kind of replaced the tournament. You know
exactly.
what I mean in terms of like the first act action sequence.
Yes, and the end point is still intact. And the end point's important. So the important payoff of that contest is still intact, where the mother has that moment with Diana where basically she says goodbye to her. She realizes the way it usually goes, like, I knew it was you. I saw it past the mask and everything. I recognize my daughter is prepared for this. In this case, like, Diana, I know you can do this, and I'm sad to see you go. And and sometimes they're really strict with the whole, like, you can never come back. In this case, it's like down the line she'll be welcomed back. But I'm just saying right now, it's like sometimes like the law of the land is if you leave the island, you can't come back. So in this case, she's telling Diana, I want you to be safe. I know you're going. Basically, she's going. The reason Diana is going, and I love this bit where Steve Trevor. This is what I love about the characterization and what Gal Gadot's playing. So it's kind of important, I guess, is that she says the minute she hears Steve Trevor just go about like how he stole the book and everything of the Dr. Poison's notes, like the proof of this gas attack and everything, which we'll get to.
Right.
I just love it when Steve Trevor tells her, like, women, very honestly, because he's under the lasso, just telling her, women and children are being slaughtered in villages, and he wants to prevent that. I love how touched Diana is by, oh my God, we got to stop that. It sounds horrible.
Yeah, this is it very much touches on your whole thing of like, the most simplistic thing about superheroes is their desire to save people, the basic good, and I think this movie represents that very well.
Absolutely, and as well, that's what drives Wonder Woman to do this. And also the other thing, that Ares is thinking about what could cause such atrocities. Well, it must be Ares. That's what Ares' MO is. He incites wars. The simplistic thing of, hey, there's a war going on. He tells us there's a war, which the Amazons don't want to get involved with. Again, they want away from war and on Hippolyta's part, away from Ares, so Diana doesn't get killed. So yeah, and then of course, like the ultimate symbol of acceptance is just like kind of breaking off like two pieces of Anatope's tiara, and that's the origin of the Wonder Woman tiara. Really great bit. I just love that idea of like the symbol of Anatope she carries with her. Her teacher, her mentor is like she's taking that with her as a symbol of Wonder Woman.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so end of Act 1. So basically, essentially, Stephen. We'll get to the bonding in Act 2. Steve and Diane, they're on their way to.
Of course. Okay, let me.
To not America, but London.
Yes. Let me switch the image over. Let's get to Act 2. All right. As much as I like the world building in Act 1, I think Act 2 is really where the movie shines. And like I said, all my issues with this movie lie in Act 3. So we'll get there when we get there. So I guess let's start with sort of the fish out of water type stuff, which, Dragon, I gotta admit, like, it's fun, but I kind of feel a bit of a been there, done that sort of vibe with this kind of humor.
You know what? I think there's a new spin on it, Tiki, where like it was in the boat, but it's also I'll mention my two favorite fish out of water moments.
Okay.
But just on the whole, I think the new twist on it was that Steve Trevor isn't like having the over the top reaction; he's just rolling with it. And I thought that was hysterical. I thought it was a great way to go with like in the boat when she's like mentioning the whole clay, and of course the actual origin I just saw in the animated thing is like, of course she's made out of clay.
I mean, I'm talking more. I'm talking more the fish out of water stuff, like her trying on the dress and everything, and that to me felt like I said, it was fun, it was enjoyable. Like Gal Gadot is good at comedy and everything, but it just feels pretty samey. Like I feel like Thor did that type of humor better.
I mean, that's fair, but I'm just saying this is like one of those times where it's like now you can kind of appreciate. Well, I mean, yeah, it's like kind of we had that with Thor, yes, but now we kind of have it like kind of in that setting where anything these types of like little commentary on how women were back then, just like they had to be print problem dressed so
I mean,
ridiculously.
like we're having corset jokes. Like I don't know, like
When do we really have any other opportunities to have corset jokes,
Pirates
Steve?
of the Caribbean, the Course of the Black Pearl.
All right, aside from Pirates, like I'm saying, would you admit, aside from Pirates of the Caribbean, it's a rarity to have like a corset joke.
Aside from Pirates, I guess, but Pirates just owns the corset joke,
Ugh.
though. Anyways,
My point is just like kind of like some gags, like kind of one-off fish out of water gags, about less about like kind of in the modern day of, oh my god, this guy's like he's a superhero, doesn't really realize it. In Wonder Woman's case of like, why do women have to wear these these ridiculous clothing? Like she's ripping the skirts and everything, and she's like like moving the dress, like not real, and she's kind of like giving a show of like the ridiculous undergarments of the time to everyone.
right.
So it's like that, and of course, it's what I think pluses it is the fact we have better supporting characters than we did in Thor. Where believe me,
I mean, I will agree with that. Yeah, the supporting players are a lot better. I think the comedy itself is better in Thor.
well, no, I'm saying is like we have like Etta Candy, who I think like kind of is a fun little she's kind of a fun little sidekick to give Diana.
Yeah, she's fun. I honestly wish she had more screen time because I really liked her in the trailers, but it felt like they kind of gave away her best bits in the trailers.
Oh, that's fair. I'm just saying she's always like a long time kind of sidekick to she's essentially she's Wonder Woman's Weasel. She's kind of like Wonder Woman's Alfred.
Right. Like I
That's,
mean,
that's
like I get her purpose. Like I said, I just kind of wish we had more from her throughout the movie. Like
I'm with you there. I got some
Yeah.
speculation for how they might be able to work her in
Okay.
down the line. But I understand. I get you though. But I'm just saying in terms of like for the Thor comparison, I would say I'm not saying the Thor character is like less, but I'm saying I think that the comedy is a little better worked into Wonder Woman with Etta Candy and.
Okay. Okay.
Let's see, where's it? But with the fish out of water stuff too. I mean, I like the little nods to Richard Donner, the classic Lois and Clark in the alley, and like basically they're mugged in an alley, which they mirror very much so. And instead of Superman catching the bullet, it's Wonder Woman, deflecting.
Yes, I noticed that.
That
Right.
to me, that was such a classy bit, and of course they give her glasses way back when too. And it's there was this real cutesy little bit where Steve Trevor saying like, "Can you make her look not it's still not noticeable because she still looks so darn cute even in all like all covered up and stuff."
right. Right.
It's like that to me was like a cute little romantic, like hinting that these two are going to be romantic. Ain't that cute? My two favorite bits of the fish out of water, though, it's I mean the Richard Donner little homage was great, and also it's kind of fun. It might be not only a nod to Richard Donner, but a nod to the animated film because they had an alleyway mugging scene where she deflected the bullets too, which I'm convinced has to be directly from that animated film.
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite bit's just because I love the clay thing. I just love the clay origin of Wonder Woman. The fact that they mentioned it, even though they changed it around a little bit, it's a little vague. So maybe the clay thing worked into there somehow. But regardless,
I do like how it's kind of a little bit ambiguous if it was a story or if it actually happened.
to me, regardless, in the animated film, she was struck by lightning, so you could still say that's
Uh-huh.
Zeus. So regardless, the point is, I just love the bit where Gal Gadot sells us so well, where she says, "Oh, what a cute little baby,"
Yeah,
and Steve
that
like,
was nice. That was nice.
and she just scares this woman, just like how eager she is, and and Steve steers her away, says, "No, no, no, not me at Clay, not it's the baby's the baby." That to me is still my favorite joke in the movie for some reason. I just think it's
No, that was a good joke. Gal Gadot, man, like I said, she delivers in this movie, and I think she absolutely like earns everyone's respect. And
yes.
like I have nothing but good things to say about her.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say it here. I don't want to spend a whole thing on it, but yeah, so
Of
there's some
course.
places that are banning the film because of because of who Gal Gadot is or like her ethnicity and stuff, which is stupid.
I mean, that's just dumb. I don't.
That's
even
what I'm
wanna
saying.
Get into that.
I'm just saying, yeah. I mean, that those guys are dumb and just how can you? She's wonderful in this film, guys. Come on.
Right.
And of course, the other gag, and they lifted this from the New 52, and this is like a really good gag in the New 52. They've been kind of floating around. I love they put in the movie here where she loves ice cream, and she thinks the guy who's selling the ice cream actually made the ice cream.
You should be so proud.
Yep, that's from the comic, and that's still such a wonderful because she's bonding with a kid who like says, "Hey, you want some ice cream?" And she tries like, "Oh my god!" She compliments the vendor. It's just a great little.
Right.
Those are my two favorite comedy bits in the movie, to be honest. Those are my two little favorite small bits. Okay, so that's just all the line the fish out of water. So, do you want to talk about the villains or what?
I think we should kind of save the villains for the third act. Just have all the villain stuff in the third act.
All right, we'll break them down later on. But just to be clear, of course, they do factor in throughout. Just let's make
sure. I'm just saying, like, I think, like, for right now, we should concentrate on the. I want to go into the not the army, but the team that they form.
Before we do, you want to break down the kind of just so we can get it done and out of the way. Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor's kind of relationship, the bonding.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I think it works its way throughout the film. I think the strongest moment with that comes at the end of the second act. But I don't know. I don't have a ton to say about it. I just think Trevor is just very very patient with Diana and just like wants to learn from her and sees the positive side of her instead of the the outlandish, like, crazy Amazonian side. It's nice. And then of course Diana likes Trevor for just for his boldness and his courage and whatnot. So I don't have a ton to say. It's a good dynamic, and Pine and Godot certainly play well off each other.
Yeah, overall, I love how Steve just rolls with the crazy Diana's thrown at her, but he can, and I love that with this he can actually. She can refute a lot of the points that of the kind of what's going on in society. She kind of makes it some excellent kind of simplified points that he just can't refute. He rolls with for that reason. Well, yeah, but and yet at the same time, she's not right about everything. We don't have like a whole thing of like Wonder Woman always has to be right or she always has to be. It's complicated, and I love how we embody that through Chris Pine's performance of him trying to explain the Ares thing to her. Well, Ares may or may not exist because you're kind of selling me on the supernatural here. But let's keep in mind, war is it's a complicated thing.
Right.
And again, Steve hopes that by the end he'll be able to show her that war is complicated and educates her in boil it down here. So the last thing I really have to say about relationship before we move on to the army is that he educates her by the end that that not only in man but that she educates her not in like men are good or like something as simple as men are not men aren't evil, but man is flawed, yet it tries to be good, and that's such a human quality that is worth protecting. People trying to be good is something worth protecting. I just love that message kind of being translated through the relationship between them.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, so let's start at the team. Let's break them down.
Okay. I guess we'll start with Samir because he's the first one introduced.
Or Sammy for short, just I'm saying it's his nickname. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna have the most to say about Charlie. I think all the other guys, they're very functional. They're very good. They work well as a team. They don't really have a lot of standout moments. I think Charlie's kind of the standout from this team.
For me, I really like Sam. I just love this kind of this master of disguise thespian who was, he's kind of he's kind of hitting on Diana at the same time. He's the one buying into it. I believe her.
Right.
So Sam, I like Sam. You're right though. Charlie does have a lot of interesting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, these guys are kind of a band of misfits. They're on the very much in the style of the Howling Commandos. Let's face
it. It is. Yes.
The minute I saw that photo from Batman Superman, I was getting the vibe of like, okay, Wonder Woman in some kind of approximation.
I like how they don't have a Dum Dum Dugan stand-in because Dum Dum Dugan in himself is already kind of a stereotype. So I like that they don't try and replicate that at the very least.
Yeah, and on the whole, I like that they're all they're all less in complexity for Diana. Like none of them are like like straight good men. I mean, they're all like Sammy, of course, he's a spy. Charlie, of course, he's somewhat of he's kind of a failed soldier. Yeah, but with the chief, he plays both sides. So these men aren't like they're all deeply flawed in some way, and they're kind of like not exactly full-fledged army members. None of them are like like soldiers necessarily. They're all ex-soldiers or like like very kind of failed.
So as I said, I definitely think Charlie is the strongest out of these characters. I will admit, Dragon, I have some bias here because I love the actor. The actor is he had a very memorable role as Spud in Trainspotting. So I got to give him props there. But seriously, I just I love these complexities that we keep layering on the Charlie character. You know, the fact that he has PTSD, the fact that he's a musician, you know, the fact that he already served a tour of duty. Like, I like how Charlie seems like kind of just like this bumbling idiot guy. Like, I like how we get that great reveal of him, like, oh, that's our guy. Well, shoot, we're in shape, and it's
No,
like,
he's the guy getting beat up.
yeah. No, that's our guy.
Yeah, they're all. I found they were all likable and fun. Yeah, but then they're divided on Diana's story. As I said, some of them buy into it. Like the Chief's kind of either or, and he instinctually he believes whatever Diana says, and just seeing Sam, he's just like, he's like, after seeing the trench scene, oh boy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's like there's some of the Howling Commandos, but they're more focused on. That's the one. As much as I love, the Howling Commandos, unfortunately, we don't really spend enough time.
I mean, that's the big flaw of the first Avenger, right?
Yeah.
Is
we
the
don't
fact
spend.
that, like, I mean, just the action and war stuff in general is kind of glossed over in that.
It's
movie.
only a montage instead of being like. Unfortunately, we don't like spend like a whole act like in the field with Captain.
Right.
But unfortunately, you can only have so many acts in a movie.
Yeah. So
Anyway.
Okay, so I guess should we move right into the trench then? Because that's kind of
Yes.
the big beat. Okay.
Oh
so,
boy, this is obviously the best scene in the movie. This the trench scene. No Man's Land more specifically. Which I wonder if it's obviously No Man's Land is a real thing. I'm just saying it's kind of just saying No Man's Land instantly reminds me of the Batman story No Man's Land, which I know it's not a reference.
Set up. Ooh.
Yeah. Well, we do actually have a possible Batman connection with one of our villains, but we'll get there.
Okay.
So anyway, so the trench scene, of course, is not only not for me. I think it's collectively it's a favorite scene by many people because of course it's like the proper introduction of Wonder Woman. When she's we see her head
the great the theme song that it's used 3 times in the movie Dragon, as you said, and I think all 3 times they nail it. Very well placed. This one in particular, and you're right, Dragon. Watching this, it is like, okay, that is what Wonder Woman is. That's what Wonder Woman should be on screen. They fucking nailed it.
Yep, this just hits all the sweet spots I wanted with this Wonder Woman movie here. Where again, she's just boiling it down. She's doing the costume, and she has always one of my favorite elements of Wonder Woman is that she always has a soft spot for women and children, especially kids. That was the cool thing. She always did outreach. Like back in the war effort, she always told kids to recycle, and she played baseball with them. That was the cool
right.
thing. So this is she finds out that there's a village over there that's kind of under occupation, and there's that beautiful scene where she's going through the trench and the people are begging for help left and right. Oh my God, such a great setup for, and and Steve's telling her, look, the sad fact of war is you can't save everyone, Diane. She's like, please, you have to go over to the village.
And again, man, Gal Gadot, she absolutely sells it in this moment. She's great at comedy, but she's also good in the drama elements here.
Oh, she's so fantastic. She ditches the cloak and then she climbs this ladder here, and that's why we picked this one. She climbs the ladder, and then that's the big reveal because we've seen the costume in itself, and we've seen the bracelets. We haven't seen her head to toe in it yet. No, it's a great thing. Basically, again, No Man's Land is suicide, and the best setup line ever. Some people might say it's over the top. I love it. Just this line of essentially she's told it's No Man's Land, and it's the perfect setup that no man can walk it.
Well, I'm not a man.
Yeah, I like that I don't believe she says. Do you remember if she says that?
Oh, I don't think she does. I just
like that we didn't say that, but I love it. Just communicate to the audience.
Right.
No man can cross, and then of course she leads the charge. That's such a freaking awesome moment. Her climbing that ladder, and it's the bullet launch, and then we have the first deflection has all these sparks to it. That's the beginning. She takes all the fire. It's so inspirational, Tiki. She's the first to head in there, and because of her taking all the fire, taking the heft of it all, the team can rally behind her and fight behind her. And it's not like someone's not doing their job. It's all of them are it's not like a one person job. It's they're all working together, and Diana's doing the most awesome stuff in the scene.
Right.
And not only do we get the bullets and the bracelets, we then once she gets into town, it gets even better as it goes on until she gets through the No Man's Land. Then she gets into the town. I think it's in is it in Belgium or no, not Belgium.
then I wasn't paying that much attention, man. I'm sorry.
The point is, she gets to the village, and then once she gets to the village, then she uses the lasso. Once she uses lasso, I love how it glows when it's used.
Yeah, when they break out the lasso for the first action scene, of course, that's a very cathartic moment of the movie.
And it's such a cool thing that once she uses lasso and everyone like it glows. So it's like if you feel like it's such like a visually distinctive thing that it does. And when it's like it's being used when it's being used as unbreakable, or like to compel people with the glow.
Mhm.
So she's like throwing people around, and then we have the fantastic shield. She goes in there, she's busting heads. This is like the shot from the trailer, and in that scene, that's when they play the Wonder Woman theme. Like yes, yes, oh my god, it's so perfect. And it goes on from there. Then we get the fantastic shield callback. Shield, Steve and the gang, because Steve saw that. Steve saw the shield.
Right.
So he had the idea. Let's get the shield because our sniper guys, he's choking up. Charlie's choking up on the job, which Diane makes him feel better about later on. Shield, he jumps and she just levels the freaking church tower. My god, yes.
Yeah, really cool, really cool.
Yeah. Just oh boy, fantastic.
And then Dragon, as much as I love that, I also very much love the aftermath, like the party in the town afterwards. Yes. Just the atmosphere, man. Just the atmosphere is so warm and inviting. And of course, you've got Charlie playing music in the tavern
and he's
everything.
Singing, and then Diane has like a little sweet thing where she says, "Oh, I like to hear you sing, Charlie."
Oh man, and then of course I think this is like the best scene between Diane and Trevor,
teaching her to dance for the big party scene coming up soon. They're getting ready, and I love how it snows when they're dancing.
Of course, we have a dancing scene with a guy named Steve who's destined to die by the end of the movie. Dragon, of course we get that.
Yep. So again, the first Avenger parallels are there, folks. Again, we're not being crazy with this. There are a few. Come on, there are like three. There are three elements of this movie that are very first Avenger derivative.
Sure.
Now again, until we get to the third one, they're not really. Again, these are just like these are like okay if you find like yeah, but we kind of have to have these, and of course the last one's like there's a little bit too similar.
Right. Okay, let's see. Anything else about the second act?
But yeah, just the ended out kind of like ending on a high note with the dancing. Because where the second act ends, that's a little up in the air. Because if you want to say it's after the party scene that they're getting ready for or not, it's.
I mean, I would argue it would be when she thinks she kills Ares, but then
I would agree. Tiki, I would agree with you. I'm just saying if we like want to like kind of narrow it down like time wise, maybe it's like coming to the party.
And also just for the sake of making the transition in the conversation easier.
Sure. So it's a really nice intimate scene to set up. Like we're at the peak of Steve and Diana's relationship, and then we go into the party. Just the ends for brevity's sake.
Okay, so let's transition into Act 3 then. Now, Dragon, before we go any further into Act 3, I think we should just take the time to break down these two characters right here.
Okay. All right. So let's see. So this is funny. Now, this is something that I really like about the movie. Just kind of taking it all in because General Eric Ludendorff here, the one on the left, Danny Houston's character. Of course, we all remember Danny Houston for another. I use the term loosely superhero film.
Please remind me.
X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Oh God! Oh well, I don't remember him from that.
Yep. Honestly, if you want to be really technical, he's the reason Wade had his Deadpool had his mouth shut.
Oh God!
He's the one who had the cheeky line of like, "Oh Wade, you'd be such a good soldier if you didn't have that mouth of yours."
Oh man. Jesus.
So technically, I mean, he's the embodiment of Tom Rothman. Technically, so
he's the embodiment of evil, is what he is.
Like I said, the embodiment of Tom Rothman. So no, but seriously, so this is the thing the DC Universe does, which I was really impressed by because I didn't know this on the first watch. Because I assumed Ludendorff might be like a deep cuts comics character, but he's not because what they do, Tiki, is that. Especially when they do World War II era stuff, in this case World War I era stuff, Ludendorff is actually a real life character. He is there was a ruthless general called Ludendorff.
Okay.
And this is basically what the DC Universe likes to do sometimes. Basically, they'll take real history, but they'll add these fantastical elements that eventually line up with what the actual history is. But now we know like the secret little like, oh my god, so the history is much more interesting if this stuff happened.
Right, right.
So essentially, that's yeah, like they've done that like in the animated, for example, Justice League the animated series. They went back to World War II, but basically someone messed with the time stream, so they had superpowered weapons, and basically they froze Hitler, and at the end they
Oh,
thawed Hitler, so now Hitler took his place in history. That's
oh wow. Okay.
so basically they line up with history, but they add fun little chapters to it. So that's kind of what this
Right.
is, and let me see. So, and of course, we have, I think, a villain that a deep cuts Wonder Woman villain, Doctor Poison. He's from the William Moulton Marston days, the really early days of Wonder Woman.
Hmm.
And what's really cool is that she really fits the build for like what a Wonder Woman villain is, or it's kind of it feels very Linda Carter-esque the way they pulled this off. Where it's a woman who, to feel superior, to feel like valued in the world, she does these great, unspeakably evil things. Like to get appreciated for her scientific achievements, she has to work with the bad guys and do like take that genius but work such unspeakable things.
Right, right. Yeah.
I don't know if like she got injured while doing evil things or beforehand because hence the deformity.
Mhm.
In the comics, she like the idea in the comics was she disguised herself as a man with a plastic mask. So here they kind of made like a deformity. It gives her, I think it was. What do you think of Doctor Poison look? I think it's kind of cool.
I really, really like the look, actually. It kind of reminds me of something you'd see out of a villain in The Rocketeer or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Now just to break down these two villains for myself personally, I like the real world history of the general guy,
Yeah.
but I don't know. He's just I think he serves more of a factor into the story. Like he's an interesting section of the story, what with the the false Ares and everything like that.
Yeah.
I just don't think this guy has that much of a like. He's not really that interesting to me. He's just kind of like generic, like evil dictator. He
Well,
doesn't
here,
really have many layers to him.
all I can really say, Tiki, is it's kind of two things with Ludendorff. Is that one, I think that's somewhat the point that he's not supposed to be that because that's what his character is. He's a figurehead. He's just kind of like this.
I guess.
And again, reading into it, it's like, hey, this super important guy really factors. The guy who's important in real life really factors not so much into this movie.
And then I definitely think Doctor Poison is my favorite of the three villains we have here because, like you said, she's definitely got that sort of like like bizarro Wonder Woman thing going on.
Yeah.
Where much like Diana, she just wants respect in the role of men, and she's just of course going to very dark lengths to get that respect. And of course, like I said, I like the look of Professor Poison. I keep wanting to call her Professor Poison. I'm sorry, Dragon. I like the look of Professor Poison. I like.
I know why you're thinking Professor all of a sudden, but we can't get into that here.
Okay. Okay. Anyways, so
But with Ludendorff, I just wanted to hit this thing with Ludendorff real quick. Is that yeah, he's a cruel figurehead, and here's the thing going with Ludendorff through the film. My experience with him is that just knowing what Ares does to people, and knowing that this guy was a red herring for Ares, I thought was one the way Danny Houston played him. I could buy that. Okay, this guy's kind of over the. He's over the top. And he could be. I could buy that he's controlled or fueled by Ares because as like you saw in the animated film, you saw like the psychic effect Ares has on people. He makes them all war crazy, right?
sure, sure.
So I'm saying that's the vibe I got with Ludendorff. I don't again to a general audience. I'm not sure if that plays. It probably doesn't play at all. But I'm saying with the superpower thing, it's kind of what people may have taken away from it. That hey, he might be Ares because he's really loving the super strength he's getting.
I can see that.
And again, that would explain like the devotion to destruction. That's Ludendorff's whole deal. He's devoted to destruction. They're about this. They're about to surrender. They're about to kind of settle the war. Like this is the end of World War I, by the way. Which I love the placement of that, by the way. We're at the very end, so like all this extra stuff again, it wouldn't affect kind of the actual course of history, which is why our heroes would prevent like this big gas attack from ruining the surrender.
Mm-hmm.
He wants war where there's no point of it because again they've already surrendered, so he just wants war for destruction's sake, which sounds very nonsensical and destruction heavy, like someone who is either Ares or controlled by Ares. And the last thing, there's one important thing with Ludendorff we have to cover, team. This might be the only interesting thing you're going to take away from Ludendorff. Actually, it's more about Dr. Poison. So regardless, I think you're just going to
Okay.
look Dr. Poison more. Is that the little thing he crushes and he smells that the fan theory, and I'm so into this fan theory. I would love it to be true. Is that might be the origin of Venom for Bane? The thing gives Bane his super strength.
Okay, I like that. I like that. Yeah,
It's kind of a cool, like little early temporary version, like a new way of getting Venom. That down the line is gonna be like through a tube system and like injecting and stuff. But like he breaks a little thing, he inhales it and he has super strength temporarily. Again, very Venom-esque.
Mm-hmm. Sure, sure.
That's the cool fan theory. I'm all for. I mean, I love to think that, and it's a cool way of kind of adding some new layers to again world building in the DCU like that.
Right, right. Cool.
Okay. Let's talk about the actual party scene, which, by the way, I just love the little ploy that Steve and Sammy come up with. They're playing over the top Germans, and he's like the pipe, and he's like slapping them around, saying, "Hey, what are you doing? You're saying you didn't bring the invitations." They're just making such a scene. They let him in, so they make a scene.
Right,
And Diana like mugs like a snooty woman for her dress.
Mm. Yeah, that's all really fun.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, you want to? Yeah, let's just take things through the party scene.
To be honest with you, man, it's all kind of blended together for me a little bit. I know I'm not really saying much, but
well, let me hit this one. Was that the crux of the party scene that Steve? This is where Steve and Dinah are starting to hit a roadblock in their dynamic here, where it's basically. Dinah, this is where Steve he's been going along with Dinah. He hasn't been like kind of crushing her dreams. The whole Ares might not be real, Dinah. He's just kind of saying, look, if you kill Ludendorff now while the peace talks are going on, and importantly, while we still need to find out where Dr. Poison's gas attacks, like where she's keeping all the gas, if you kill him in public, Dr. Poison's going to flee. We're not going to get the stuff we need, so don't kill him. Again, he's starting to float the idea there. He might not be the.
And of course, Diana, she just, she doesn't grasp the concept because she just thinks he's just an evil guy. He needs to be taken down.
Exactly. So, I mean, and that's always been kind of the.
Sure, can I just say quickly about just the dynamic between Diana and Steve in general?
Sure.
That I feel like it's a very good kind of play on the liar revealed sort of archetype where Steve is just a very, very reasonable liar revealed.
Yeah, and again, he's not a lie. He's not saying.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like it's like you could see like with some sloppier writing, it could very easily be a standard liar revealed, but they kind of they do some cool sort of gray area stuff with the lie.
Sure.
Okay.
Let's see. Let's see. So then, of course, we have I'm saying I thought you were really excited about the party scene. So we have the.
When I said the party scene, I meant like the post battle scene.
Oh, because I thought you meant this scene.
No. I meant the town. I mean, don't get me wrong. This is a good scene. I'm just like the town is probably my favorite scene in the whole film.
Well, we had two really cool things happening during this party scene that I wanted to kind of take a moment to address. Like we have these two cool things. I love Steve Trevor being so suave and being a spy, which of course that's Steve Trevor's usual thing. He's always been kind of like a spy.
Spy than fucking Jimmy Olsen.
Oh yes, well, the movie Jimmy Olsen. Let's be clear.
Yes.
The temporary movie. That one still hurts me. But anyway,
I know.
no, but also again, Steve Trevor being the competent spy. He's really chatting up, and he's Dr. Poison. He's kind of flirting with Dr. Poison, and he's really playing to her vanity of like saying, "Oh my God, you're such a brilliant mind, and your work, and you're playing like an evil German. Like, hey, your work is unparalleled." And unfortunately, the minute Diana walks in, she thinks that, hey, you're eyeing Diana instead of me. Your distractions elsewhere. Take care. Mm-hmm. And also, there was this really great thing talking about fire and like the beauty of fire and stuff. Because I just want to talk about Dr. Poison's work for a moment before we about the gas that we've been hyping up. The only other really layer that we have to Poison and Ludendorff is they really love killing people.
They really do, yes.
It's very like the glee at which Ludendorff.
Out of it.
That's the one bit of characterization of Ludendorff that's really funny, where he throws the gas mask in there. Why'd you throw the gas mask in there? Yeah, it's not going to help. They don't know that. He's gleefully killing people. And he's got super silly. Ludendorff's having a good time with it.
Right.
That's the one thing I gotta give. He's having fun, just like doing damage. And it's a cool looking thing when the gas mask gets all destroyed and stuff. But this gas, like the most potent mustard gas ever, that would like eat through any gas mask. That's a cool, simplistic, like deadly idea.
Right.
So of course we have the really cool tension here, where we have that excellent shot from the trailer where Diana walks in this beautiful blue gown, and in the back, like kind of like the spine of the dress almost, she has the God Killer sword. Mm-hmm. She's ready to stab this guy right in the chest in the middle of the party. She's just waiting for a move, and she goes up there, and again, kind of Steve just trying to kind of throw her off of it. And, she's basically she's kind of chatting him up about gods, which again suggests like, hey, I'm Ares. I'm talking about Greek mythology. Yeah,
right, exactly. Yeah,
but again,
they do kind of play that misdirect very well. You're right, Dragon. They leave it ambiguous, try to a big part of the movie. Like this guy could be Ares, you know, he could be. It's a possibility.
I could definitely see a reveal where like his eyes light up and like, hey, I'm Ares, you know, that sort of thing, and just like that.
Right.
I mean, I like the Ares, kind of the Ares misdirect, or at least like the Ares.
We'll
Like,
get into it. We'll get into it.
well, I mean, I like making us think that this guy might be Ares. That's what I'm guessing. So,
Okay.
anyway, so before Diane can strike the guy down, Steve stops her, and then of course that's really when the divide starts between them. Of course, there's a horrible aftermath where Ludendorff then. And I don't know if you had caught this, Steve, is that what Ludendorff does really terrible. He gasses as a test run, I guess. He gasses the same village that Diana saved.
I did catch that. Yeah.
Okay, and then she walks through, and she's immune to the gas because she's technically half god or god. She walks through the gas, and it's a horrifying scene. Seeing the dead women and children. Oh boy.
Right.
All right, so then let's talk about I guess Diana. We'll break Steve down separately, but let's focus on Diana and Ludendorff right now. Now they have their big old showdown.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about the actual fight itself. It's well executed. I don't know. Action in general in movies is kind of hard for me to discuss. It's like, yeah, they fight, and then they fight, and then they fight. But I do like the moral implications of this, Dragon. I love the, this was a very good kind of like dramatic idea of like, like Diana, she was so convinced that this guy was the god of war, and yet, she killed him and nothing happened. Like, why are they still fighting, Steve? Like that moment is played very well, Dragon. I really, really like that moment. Again, I don't really have a ton to say about the actual fight because, like I said, like action in general for me is hard to talk about. But the dramatic implications of the scene are very good.
Exactly, with the implications, yes. And I like that the message is delivered to Diana in that point. Steve just tries to kind of spell it out to her that, again, I told you this. Even if you did kill Ares, this might still happen.
Right.
The whole there's that moment where she's realizing I killed I fulfilled my purpose and nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And just with the fight itself, I like that it's in this enclosed space. It's like I think it's a really well blocked fight. It's like in this. Diana's been essentially has been having an easy time because she's Wonder Woman versus your average German army, and now she's facing someone with kind of essentially Bane-like strength.
Right.
And it's really cool. And then we have set to the Wonder Woman theme again, really good use of it. Kind of like Diana thinking it's her big purpose, to go up against this guy, and she's really putting her all in this fight. It's a really they find like an even match for a semi-even match for one, because of course you can defeat him, so it's not as even a match as the one coming up. So again, the question if I'm saying the point I just made about the whole Ares thing. So, I mean that's kind of the end result after she impales the guy. Just kind of she realizes like it might not be as an easy solution as she.
Dragon, I got to admit that was kind of the peak of the movie for me, and then after that, I just kind of started to get bored a little bit.
Well, I'll tell. And now we're going to start breaking down the kind of the Ares of it all. Let's say. So then in this scene, so after she defeats the guy, then she gets we get the Ares reveal. Now we got to backtrack a smidge because we glazed over this guy completely. So
we did.
The unsung hero of Trevor's team, the guy who's not in the photograph, is Sir Patrick. Sir Patrick essentially is this guy, is mustachioed guy in London who's basically Steve. There's a scene where Steve Trevor just kind of walks into a woman. He has the book that he stole the book with Dr. Poison's notes, and that's the reason he was shot down at Paradise Island, because they wanted to get that book back. And we saw like a whole scene showing it. It was a nice little executed flashback and everything. Point is, Steve delivers that to essentially like a war council of some kind, like generals and stuff, just telling them, "Hey guys, listen." He tells his higher ups, "Guys, here are the notes here. We got to stop this. We're in the middle of peace talks, kid. We can't send anyone. We're not going to risk anything. But they're going to plan something horrible. You're going to let something horrible. People are going to die." Diana barges in there and just kind of talks him down. And you don't even fight your own battles. Amazons fight their own battles when that's what their generals do.
Right.
As we saw with Robin Wright. Anyway, so the idea is that Sir Patrick here, he encourages Diana. He's like, "Yeah, she has the right idea. I'm gonna fund you guys for a few days. You go take care of this. Don't go to the party though, but take care of this."
Mm-hmm.
And the big reveal was that Sir Patrick actually was Ares, which the reveal itself is like it's. Yeah, I'll say this. I'll compromise with this.
Silly. I really think it's just fucking silly, and it's a twist for the sake of having a twist. I really do.
Well,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm compromised here. So first and foremost, let me say, I think the beginning of this twist is the best part of it. So I think it's like I think had they kept a little bit more cerebral, I think it might have played better. What we do here,
I hear you.
so like, this is really well executed in the beginning, Tiki, the way this reveal goes. Is that, it's revealed that Ares was actually Sir Patrick, and given the idea we don't know exactly what Ares looks like, and we know Ares he could, being a god, he could probably inhabit any form. So I appreciate the reveal definitely on that side.
Okay, yeah, but then it gets fucking silly when you see the same like Harry Potter like mustachioed professor.
I know.
Ancient times. That's when it
Yes.
fucking loses me, Dragon.
I know. I was going to build to that. I was going to agree.
Okay.
Well, by the way, fun little fact: David Thewlis,
Yeah.
David Thewlis plays him. You know who else? You know what I know David Thewlis from?
What?
He's the Earthworm in James and the Giant Peach.
Oh God. Okay. I can see that.
So the Earthworm from James and the Giant Peach is actually Ares.
And Professor Lupin, the best defense against the dark arts teacher.
Right. So I mean, like the way they're executing this in the beginning, I thought was really strong. Like, where he's in the window and it's like a force that it represents what Ares is. It's a force that Dinah can't exactly fight. I like he's communicating her through the window.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course she shatters. He tries cutting through the window, and then of course he just kind of like disappears on, and then he appears. Like kind of that Ares is something that you can't fight easily because it's fighting war and men essentially.
Right.
So that side of it I really liked, and I wish they kind of kept it a little bit more like that. I think that would have kind of unanimously made a lot of that better. But
yeah, I think the flaw is in the action itself, Dragon, because this is when I just start checking my watch and being like, okay, we're gonna do this like bullshit like third act like heavily CGI like villain reveal. It kind of reminded me of the end of Iron Man a little bit, to tell you the truth.
oh come on, it's not the end of Iron Man. I mean, I'm saying the end of Iron Man is better than what you're comparing with this.
You're saying the end of Iron Man is better than this?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm saying the end of the fight. I'm saying if you're just isolating the fight, yes.
Okay, but I still think it has the same sort of ridiculous, like, the guy that you've been following is now suddenly the supervillain, and then he dons ridiculous armor.
Okay, I see what you're going for there, but I'll disagree. So, let's not get into the Iron Man comparison.
Can we talk about the armor, though?
Well, yeah, I was going to get to that. Like, I want to go through a few more bits in this. Then we'll hit all the armor stuff. We'll hit all that stuff. Just one moment. Just of course, with the reveal, of course, Dinah is the daughter of Zeus, the god killer, which of course is a big idea. She basically finds that she's a god here, which is kind of a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So then, and this was this is all the good stuff on the Ares stuff before we get into the kind of stuff. Is that the fact that he whispers in the ear of people guiding war, that was a cool take on the Ares power. Just like he's more of a god of truth. Like he kind of brings out the truth in man. Of like,
I'll admit that was kind of a cool take on it. Yeah, I did have fun with that.
As much as I like that, and here's like a somewhat of a nitpick with is that I like the truth idea, I really do, and I like how he kind of explains that to Dinah. Of course, Dinah being a representation of truth herself, so that was like a cool parallel they had there. And I just wish because we see at the end here, it fits in like the classic Ares thing where he kind of psychically feeds on war, because everyone after Ares is defeated, they're all hugging and like saying, "Oh, Mom, are you okay, buddy?" Because again, the war is kind of out of their heads, and that's. Mm-hmm. And that was cool. I just wish they had like one line in there, just kind of like made it clear that he is still kind of like Ares is still feeding off of war. He's inciting war in people, but I mean, it's the idea that he brings it out. And I wish they kind of just made they filled in the gap between that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. I
mean, we kind of have her
really interesting idea, but they didn't really develop it well enough.
It's there, but they don't connect it. That's the issue. Like, they don't connect it, like showing that. I mean, while Ares is saying this, and that's a cool idea, we don't really see that while Ares is saying that he's also not explaining it fully.
Totally gotcha. So
that's the only like basically that's all the really good stuff from the Ares stuff. And then of course we have. Do you want to go through Steve's sacrifice before we get into the armor? Or do you just want to fire into the armor?
No, let's fire into the armor.
Okay, sure. With the armor.
It's just fucking ridiculous. I mean, I really do think the visual of it is like, it's not as silly as Enchantress Dragon, but it's like Enchantress levels of silly. All right.
Here's the thing with the reveal, as Tiki was alluding to, when we see Ares kind of reflecting back to like when he was wounded and then that cool painted
got that damn mustache, man.
Yes.
And it's like the most like Nigel Thornberry, like, look at my Britishness mustache, you know?
Tiki, I'm 100% agreement with you there. So believe me, I am Now, as much as I'm a defender of the mustache on characters where it works, like Jim Gordon, excellent mustache, undeniably, just he rocks the
I mean,
mustache.
the whole point of him being this like British general guy is that he's like supposed to be blending in, right?
Yes.
So what the fuck is the point of him like being British general guy throughout his whole lifetime?
It's pretty safe to say we everyone was under the assumption that he could just shapeshift, or he could be like kind of like Loki, he can kind of be in a different form or something.
Right.
And again, like it's one thing of just like, okay, it's like it could be that even if it's not like, okay, let's just say he was stuck with a singular form, but of all the singular forms, like in just the conceptualization of this, gods don't have mustaches. It goes very simply. See, I don't know what it is. I mean, gods have beards, they're unshaven, maybe a goatee, but gods don't have mustaches.
I hear you.
I'm just saying it doesn't look good, and unfortunately, when we get
like
that
I
bit
said,
where
he just looks like fucking Nigel Thornberry. That's
it's
like the best comparison.
it's a very Thornberryan mustache, yes. But I want to say this though, as much as I'll knock the mustache.
They make a live action Wild Thornberrys movie, and Tim Curry, like God bless him, Tim Curry's too sick to play Nigel Thornberry. Get David Thewlis in there; he'd do a great job. Anyways,
believe me, as much as I'll knock the mustache all day long, I got to tell you though, Tiggy, it's just the fact that I'll admit, in battle, it doesn't look as good. I'm saying just the initially how he crafts the armor, how he kind of melts the helmet. I mean, it's kind of cool. Just that we got
how he does it is cool, but it just looks bad.
I'm just saying,
it looks just bad.
It looks really bad when he doesn't have the helmet on. It just looks very much like he's That's where it looks kind of like a bad version of the Ironmonger things. The Ironmonger was cool looking, I thought, but it's kind of a bad version of that. It's like it's all CG and play. Zod, for example, Zod's armor from Man of Steel, that looked fantastic, and that was done digitally.
I can agree with that. Yeah, sure.
That looked almost practical.
It was good. Yeah, it looked good. Yeah.
Here again, that's because it's the size discrepancy. That's the thing. They're going for like a doomsday size. Where
remember, folks, size does matter.
Anyway, what I'm saying is the fact that in a shot, just like the initial introduction, like when he has all the bells and whistles on, it's like, oh my god, we got the Ares armor in a Wonder Woman movie. It looks awesome. And then of course, just the kind of the CG-ness kind of overshadows in place. I'm saying on rewatch, I'm sure it won't hold up at all in the rewatch. I'm saying the first time is like being just going out of your mind, like, oh my god, we got Ares. We got not only did we get Ares as a bag, we got to see him actually as he appears in the comics. Hooray!
Fan service. Yondu got a fin just like in the comic.
That's what I'm saying. It's just kind of it doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's kind of cool to see. Basically, if she's gonna fight him, if she's gonna fight her, might as well put him in the armor, and they did it. So I'm just appreciating it.
Like the battle itself, it just kind of went on a little too long too, Greg, and it really did. It just kind of felt like it started to drag out.
Less Iron Fist, more it felt like the Doomsday fight. That's where it kind of
Iron Man.
Did I say Iron Fist?
Yes, you said Iron Fist.
Crap. Well, yeah. Instead of the Iron Man thing, it felt like it felt more like kind of Doomsday from the end. I'm saying it's like a long, kind of unspecified battle environment. It's a giant airfield. We're throwing stuff at them. Again, they're gods. I mean, couldn't they? So I imagine he'd do more creative things than just.
Yeah, exactly. Like I feel like the big first act battle is really well executed. The big second act battle is really well executed. But then they kind of shit the bed in the third act, I feel like. I mean, it's not awful or anything, but it's nothing I'm going to walk away from being like, yeah, that was a fucking amazing battle sequence.
I will say this, the finishing move, basically her using the lasso always looks kind of cool, especially at nighttime. Let's acknowledge that. And also just the finishing move was so well shot, though. When she basically, after Steve's sacrifice, which we'll get to in just a moment.
Sure.
After Steve's sacrifice, she kind of raises up and basically she mirrors Tiki. She mirrors the shot from the comics so beautifully, where it's like this Alex Ross painting. Alex Ross, of course, famous painter. He has this beautiful painting of her, crossing the bracelets like that, the way she does, and it's in darkness, so it looks exactly like, and just like her using it as the finishing move, like directing lightning back at him, killing. He throws lightning at her. She redirects it. That was a cool way to finish Ares off. I mean, you gotta give him that. And then, of course, the ending being now war is over. Diana got what she wanted. That. In destroying Ares, she ended World War I, which is kind of cool. Like that's the implication. I mean, that as much as the Ares fight does drag on too long, it is a little silly in places in the big armored battle fight. But the end, the finishing move is awesome.
Yeah, sure. Finishing.
Let's talk about the heart of the scene though. So, what motivates her to get to that place? Steve Trevor's sacrifice, which as much as nice as it is, and more so for the goodbye. Let's face it.
Dragon, I
It's
honestly, I really don't, I really don't think it's as much of a Captain America ripoff as you do. I really don't. Just because, like, I think it's executed very well. Like, it's more in the heat of the moment than the Captain America thing is. It's more just like, Steve just has to do what he has to do. I really do like the Whisper and how they go back to the Whisper. I thought that was really well played. Like, look, sure, if you're going to compare the two of them, yeah, Cap Sacrifice is probably the better of the two scenes. Sure. I mean, come on, we love that Haley Atwell. You know what I mean? Like, she just melted our hearts with that moment. But,
well, I'm not saying it like doesn't play well. I'm just saying like while I was watching the first, I was like, yeah, this is very similar to Captain America.
and I had that thought too. But
I'm not knocking it. I'm just noticing. Yeah, this is very glaring.
At the same time, like I said, I do think it's well executed. I think there's enough twists on the scene to not just have it be a beat by beat ripoff of the Captain America sacrifice.
It's a more final version of, because he actually does die.
Exactly. And honestly, Dragon, I don't know what the fuck I was expecting because, like, obviously Steve Trevor, like, of course, I assume that Steve Trevor, there's various versions of him. Some are modern day, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, a lot of time the way they do it, Tiki, is that he has, well, in this case, you can't have it because of the finality of the death here, but the way it usually goes, he has a descendant that looks exactly like him, and that's how they bring Chris Pine back. Down the line, he has like a great-great-grandson, or like a grandson or something.
Gotcha.
Well, I'm saying basically usually World War II, so his son is like...
But, I gotta admit, even still, like even with the whole time period thing, I wasn't expecting him to die, so... so when he did, I was like, okay, that's a bold move, killing off like one of your principal protagonists right there.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect like him. I didn't expect the sacrifice either. I'm with you there. So yeah, it would be nice to give Steve Trevor a happy ending, but it was a beautiful sacrifice though. Just that I like that it gave her the watch. So I mean, the watch is, let's face it, the origin of the watch is kind of a not the best sequence in the movie. It's
it's not.
I don't want to just knock this. I'm not knocking that scene. I'm just saying that one's like, out of all the scenes in the movie, it's the one that feels like the most like, kind of like, yeah, we got to have one of these scenes in the movie. Just,
right.
Yeah, we got to have like one of the, like, the men and women are different scenes. I mean, the location's
Don't make
really
me
cool.
start quoting Christopher Walken in Pulp Fiction, man.
All right, look, my point is, it's the fact that we introduced the watch bit there, and I won't get into like the kind of forced innuendo we have with the watch bit, but the point is the watch is an important symbol. Like, you have to be somewhere, and they bring it back here where it's he's telling her that, and there's a really kind of beautiful, kind of really genuine, like a very earnest kind of thing he says. It was just, I can save today, you can save the world. I wish we had more time, and then gives it a watch. That's a nice little bit there. I wish we had more time, because he does, and that's the thing that they really kind of got to intimately know each other over the watch. And yeah,
Sure.
and just you're right, the way they execute that with like the whole, like, she doesn't hear him and then she hears him later on. So
Yeah, that's really well done.
I mean, it's an emotional sacrifice, and seeing Steve Trevor die in a very permanent way, just seeing, and she knows it. And again, she had a chance of surviving that, because again, she can withstand the gas, and she's a god, so she might have been able to live through that.
Right.
But yeah, he did that for her, and that motivated her to defeat Ares. So it's again, Steve Trevor's sacrifice did not go in vain. Again, he and Diana kind of ended World War One. So it's a beautiful little thing there.
Okay, so let's wrap up all the ending stuff as quickly as we possibly
Well,
can.
the last thing, I guess, is there's two bits, and then we're done recapping the third act.
Okay.
So there's Diana's Choice, which we kind of glazed over. This is like talking about the finale of Dr. Poison. So there's that great bit. Now, this bit's important. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because this hits upon another big element of the Wonder Woman character, Tiki. Is that there's all throughout the Wonder Woman TV show, and it's like a favorite thing about Wonder Woman is that, by many people, is that Dr. Poison, after Steve's death, Ares like presents her with a choice. He's trying to get Diana to come to his side because they're both like children of Zeus. They're both like, they're half brother and half sister.
Right.
So you're just trying to say, hey, look, you're beyond humanity. Look at them. I didn't tell them to go to war. They had war in them. I just showed them the way. So I mean, there are all these people of darkness in their hearts. Look at Dr. Poison. She's the reason the man you loved is now dead. She created that. She created that gas. She's the reason he killed himself. There, take your revenge. Go drop the tank on her, which is another famous Wonder Woman shot. Her holding that tank above her head.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the classic Wonder Woman of all, where Wonder Woman, she never exacts revenge on women because, again, very much in the 70s TV show, it'd be those bits where she just like, a woman will like hold a gun on her, she'll like talk her down from it, like those sorts of bits. Like she'll realize, like, no, what set you down this path? You don't have to go this route. She would talk him down, which is such a wonderful bit, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And here it's like this thing where she sees, like, her plastic mask comes off. She's all like just kind of this one where she can kind of see in an image like what drove her to this, like kind of like how destroyed she is just to get to a place of importance where she's a broken woman. Like the killing her will serve no purpose, and war drove her to this. Not Steve's not dead because of her. Steve's dead because of Ares inciting war.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So then you can unleash the God Killer power, and Ares is defeated. So again, so the set choosing to spare Dr. Poison was a great, but that's kind of like her undoing the Ludendorff thing.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So then, of course, one of my favorite things in the movie, and we have the framing device payoff. So the framing device of this film, of course, it's all a prequel, except the beginning and ending.
Yeah, and they actually like pay off the photo from Batman v Superman in a really good way.
Absolutely, because basically, her being close to Bruce Wayne kind of sets her up in I want to say it's Paris, where basically she's going to like a historical facility where basically all the documents are kept down there, and she's given the original photo that is taken in the movie. Mm-hmm. That's been like put in like plate glass and everything, and Bruce basically emailed her like the information and everything, and there's this beautiful bit at the end here. This is very much based on a moment from Flashpoint. This Flashpoint I've mentioned. Flashpoint.
Yeah. Sure.
They're basically, of course, Flashpoint builds this beautiful ending where it's Batman. Flash gives Batman a very personal letter from his father, and Batman cries over it. And he genuinely, it's such a beautiful. Tiki, I can't describe how beautiful. Kevin Conroy voices Batman in the animated film. He says, he just gives the most genuine thank you you've ever heard to him. Says, thank you. Such a beautiful one. They kind of have that on the reversed in a way that Bruce Wayne was able to give Diana, and he knew this, and this is what bonded them together first. Like he learned about Wonder Woman really through this photograph.
Right.
And it's kind of the fact that he gave her the actual copy, and basically she emails back to him, "Thank you for giving him back to me."
Yeah.
Oh my God! It's such a like that. Thank you for Wonder Woman in email though. That's really, and to Batman. Like Batman, he's not even in the movie.
Email Zack Snyder.
Yes, I'm just saying. Like Batman's not even in this film yet. He's filled in an email. I mean, come on. That to me, that's those reasons Wonder Woman movies are great. That's like a little. That's a cherry on top. Like not only is this a great Wonder Woman movie, it even has like a little bit of Batman without actually having Batman in it. So then, just the ending of the movie is just she to honor Steve Trevor, to honor what he stood for and what she taught him. She's going to protect all life now, and she's watching her person. And we end on kind of not my favorite shot. We end on the shot where she kind of runs out and she kind of jumps, kind of like Spider-Man. Honestly, just kind of jumps.
It was fine. I agree. It's not like the most stunning end shot of all time, but it was fine.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, I would have had her like swing on the lasso. But then again, two Spider-Man. So either way.
Right. Okay, Dragon, I have got 3 ideas for a Wonder Woman 2. And
can I remind the folks what we know about the sequel? Sure,
really quick.
Okay, so Patty Jenkins announced approximately 3 details about the sequel. She said it's going to be in the past. It's going to still be in the past, but moving forward. So it's going to be in a different time period. And so it's going to be in the past still. It's going to be in a different time period. And it will be in America. Those are the only 3 things we know about the sequel right now.
Gotcha. Okay, Dragon, I have a 1950s film, a 1960s film, and a 1970s film. 1950s film would be Diana. Of course, she's we can kind of maybe have some flashbacks to her time in World War II throughout the film. So that way we don't do a full World War II movie, but we still get some Wonder Woman World War II action in there. But essentially it picks up about 10 years after World War II in the mid-1950s. Diana is kind of like tried to settle down as like, one of those I don't want to say housewife, you know what I mean? Like, because I'm not sure what her relationship status is going to be in this movie or anything like that. But she's just kind of like, she's just kind of doing her own thing. She's
kind of cool. It's kind of the post-war type thing,
Exactly.
They're coming back from over, come back. They had so much purpose during World War II, and now it's like adapting that. And also, in the comics, there's a time where Wonder Woman was just kind of like she was forced to be kind of like pursuing Steve Trevor in a romantic sense. So
that's what I'm saying. That's kind of what I'm getting at, and maybe we could even get like the whole, because this would be like decades after Steve Trevor at this point. So,
yes.
So maybe we could get that whole, you know, like maybe the grandson of Steve Trevor or something like that.
Well, again, T, the only problem now is that he's dead, so no grandchildren.
Okay, well, maybe like a nephew of Steve Trevor. I don't know.
Well, I'm just saying to you, I'm saying that's in the comics when he, he survives the war, but he just dies of old age, and then they give him like
Okay, but
I don't mean to clip your wings. I'm just saying I consider the same thing. I'm just saying that was the roadblock I hit. Like, yeah, he's kind of
so basically, my Wonder Woman movie starts out with Diana. You know, like I said, she's got like kind of like the white picket fence lifestyle. Essentially, like I said, the only thing that I'm unclear about is if I want her to be married in this movie or not. I'm kind of leaning towards yes, but again, it's complicated because Steve Trevor isn't there. So like, you know, if Steve Trevor would have survived the first move, then I would absolutely have her be married to Steve, and maybe even explore some of the ideas, you know, of like as Diana's like, you know, like as Diana stays essentially the same age because she's immortal. Steve Trevor, you know, we could maybe do some old age makeup on. But of course, we can't have nice things because he's dead. So
there is a theory that he might come back if they somehow make the little bath he was in like a healing bath or something. But I doubt it. I'm saying there's people desperate to see Chris Pine. I'm probably gonna get him in flashback, which would be kind of cool.
Right. But essentially, Dragon, the crux of my movie would be Wonder Woman would be pulled out of retirement by the Secret Services of America, kind of like the CIA or whatnot, or like the CIA of the time.
Yeah.
For you know, to help track down nuclear weapons, because of course the nuclear scare was like, you know, the nuclear family nuclear scare, that was like a big thing in the 1950s. And so it'd be Wonder Woman tracking down nukes. Maybe we'd have some sci-fi stuff thrown in there for good measure, you know, like some 1950s, like, you know, basically Kingdom of the Crystal Skull done right. I'm not trying to speculate any villains or anything. I didn't really have time to look into Wonder Woman villains. That's mostly my main idea. It's not a great idea. And then I basically, like, you know, my pitch for Indy 5?
Was it hippies?
Yes.
Right, 60s and hippies.
So, like, copy and paste that, but with Wonder Woman. Like, you know, Wonder Woman's kind of like incognito going after, like, a, shoot, I'm like
Charles Manson type?
A Charles Manson type, yes.
I know what you could do with that. You could have Dr. Psycho kind of manipulate.
More specifically, like a Jim Jones type. I'm looking at more of a Jim Jones type. Like a guy who's like very outwardly friendly, but has like terrifying motivations on the inside.
Well, you know what I'm thinking? You know what you could do?
What?
You could just basically going with that idea, but kind of adding the kind of the comic bookness to it. Is that you could have it be Dr. Psycho. Dr. Psycho essentially, I know Psycho Pirate does this more specifically. I think Dr. Psycho has something approximate to this. Point is, assuming Dr. Psycho does this, she manipulates emotions, kind of like Ares does, and you can maybe have him being someone who obsessed over Ares and is trying to replicate that, and just kind of trying to manipulate emotions. Basically, that will lead to cult followers in the 60s.
Yeah, I could see that. But like I said, essentially it'd just be like Dragon, I really want to see my Indiana Jones style action adventure film set in San Francisco during the 1960s. All right. I don't care if we get that as Indy 5 or Wonder Woman 2. I just want to see it. You know, like trolley, you know, like a trolley chase up on the steep hills and stuff like that, you know, like Alcatraz being worked into the plot somehow, a battle on the Golden Gate Bridge, you know.
You got a shot at getting San Francisco for Wonder Woman. I'm just saying that her city is, they're very afraid to kind of go to Wonder Woman City, which I want to say is Gateway City, but like they never, like we know Metropolis and Gotham and Central City. We never hear anything about Wonder Woman City. Sometimes she's set in Washington, sometimes San Francisco, sometimes New York. So they have a shot at San Francisco is all I'm saying.
Sure. Cool. But basically, you know, like I said, folks, if you've seen my Indy 5 pitch, that's essentially what I want to do. And then 1970s Dragon, I think this would be the most interesting from a point of view of the actual character.
Oh boy, do I have a 70s pitch for you.
Well, the idea of the 1970s for me is very simple. It'd be kind of like a post-Vietnam, like Wonder Woman fought in Vietnam, but of course Vietnam was the big failure of the war. And then we could directly link in Watergate, and maybe we could have just Wonder Woman kind of in a Winter Soldier type scenario where not necessarily that the government is going after her or anything like that, but that Wonder Woman is losing faith in the government, losing faith in what she believes in and what she's fighting for. I'd really like to see a post-Vietnam Wonder Woman. Like, I think you could really do some good character stuff in a post-Vietnam timeline.
Well, I'm in very much agreement with a lot of stuff you put out there with the '70s thing because I'm definitely fine with the post-Vietnam, but for a different reason. I love the idea you put out there with kind of the Winter Soldier-esque thing with not because I love Winter Soldier, but mainly because this whole Wonder Woman's an icon of truth and the whole Watergate thing is, of course, like people lying to us, which of course that's a great conflict.
Sure,
with
sure.
Woman. So that is just something I would partially like to steal, but kind of here's the thing. So my pitch, a lot of people, of course, the two theories people throw in, of course, would be World War II and in the '70s. Because
I don't want World War II, Dragon. I'll just come out and say that right now. Like I said, if they're going to do World War II, I'd rather see that in flashbacks because I just think Captain America owns World War II so much that it'd just be redundant.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I'm saying that World War II for two reasons. Yes, Captain America has again as kind of a essentially a monopoly on World War II. So he's going to be kind of also be redundant. I think I'm going with the fact that it'd be redundant to do another war, mainly World War II. If we're gonna do anything, let's not do another World War.
Agreed.
Because again, one of the charms of Wonder Woman was that again defeating Ares kind of ended World War I. So then it's like, for me, if I were doing Wonder Woman, I would not do another war because it would kind of be a rehash of an Ares thing. It'd be raise questions of it. I know it'd be Wonder Woman dealing with the fact that wars can be started on their own, but still, let's not do war. Let's not raise that question again. Let's not deal with that again. Let's do it somewhere else. And so again, World War II is like some people think because that's the original origin, and the other thing, of course, was '77 because that's the TV show. And I honestly, not just based on TV show, based on like a lot of interesting stuff happened to Wonder Woman and in history for women in the '70s. Now, just real quick, there is one thing we got to acknowledge. There is one crippling handicap for Wonder Woman movies going forward that we have to acknowledge.
Okay.
Batman being the world's greatest detective, of course. That photograph of Wonder Woman is reportedly the only thing on record of Wonder Woman. So that means Wonder Woman cannot be a culturally known icon.
Oh, that is tough. You're right.
I have a solution, though, that would work wonders in the '70s. So, again, that's the thing you got to bear in mind, because there can't be any record of Wonder Woman. So, as much as we want Wonder Woman all these different decades, we have to remember she probably can't be in full costume. At least she can't be photographed in costume. She can exist, but there can't be any record of her.
Right.
But here's my solution, is that, of course, doing in the '70s not only honors the Linda Carter thing, but, of course, we hit upon my favorite stuff about Wonder Woman, which we've still yet, and as much as we keep doing the Wonder Woman thing, even the animated film, the very ending of the Wonder Woman movie, animated film, Tiki, is what I want to see for a Wonder Woman movie. Like her dealing with Cheetah and just dealing with the superheroics in a city.
Mm-hmm.
That's the stuff I want to see Wonder Woman. That's the stuff I'd propose for a sequel, not doing another war, but her kind of fitting into the crime-fighting superhero type thing. Of her walking the streets in the '70s, time has gone by. She's still like a fish out of water in a way, but it's not because she's unfamiliar with the ways, but it's like the culture of the times. And basically '70s also allows you a few things where you can deal with the over-the-top looks, the feminism. You can have commentary on feminism. You could have like you could have Cheetah as like looking the way she does because it's the '70s, not questioned too much.
Right.
It's a fun and cool looking time. But remember, like Nice Guys, fantastic setting in the '70s, of course, right?
Of course. Yeah. Have you gotten around to seeing that yet?
Yeah, we've been over this. Yeah.
Oh, okay, nice. Okay.
So, of course, and then I would, again, said after a war, so post-Vietnam, and again, maybe we can look at the Watergate, so since you brought that up, that's a good idea. Again, just no war plot for a sequel. And here's the thing, I'm saying, in the '70s, and when they were doing Wonder Woman in the '70s, Denny O'Neil, of course, big Batman writer, he was nearly crucified by Gloria Steinem, the feminists loved Wonder Woman, as you can imagine. So, Gloria Steinem, she basically tried to crucify Denny O'Neil because in the comics, just to spice things up, he didn't really think of he wasn't trying to do anything bad to Wonder Woman, but he took away her powers and kind of made her walk the earth. It's just kind of like she was just kind of an average woman, not wearing the costume or anything. And there was like riots essentially, like protesting, all sorts of stuff going on. Like, hey, give Wonder Woman her costume back. What's wrong with you?
God. Right.
So this would be kind of a fun little reference to that. Like in the '70s, let's say Wonder Woman, for the most part, is she's
and that would be a good excuse to not have the costume and kind of right around that loophole.
Yes, and here's your way also of getting the costume in there. So again, for the most part, she's let's say we downplay the costume in place to homage that side of it. But of course, we have to get the costume in there, not just because we have to, but just because we want to.
Yeah, sure.
What we could do, and here's my way around, because of the '70s, let's say this. Let's say the costumes out of the press are basically not on Batman's radar and anyone's radar because let's say Wonder Woman kind of being let's say kind of like an Andy Warhol type or something. Let's say Wonder Woman's red, white, and blue outfit became like a cultural thing. Let's say like people just in the '70s adapted the red, white, and blue, the Wonder Woman costume as a style. So basically, looking into it, if you saw people wearing the Wonder Woman costume, be like a fad.
Okay, I like that. I could
Basically, let's look at Wonder Woman's costume as a fad. So when Batman gets like a record of like an actual, this some of Wonder Woman he just saw way back in 1918.
right.
That's going to raise a flag. But if you looked at like the '70s fashion magazines and you saw like a woman wearing the traditional, star spangled, bloomers like Wonder Woman, they're not going to raise. It's not going to raise any flags, and therefore Batman. If you look at any news articles like a woman spotted wearing a ridiculous outfit in the '70s, you wouldn't think of it.
Exactly. Also,
so that's my.
Yeah, we have to bring this up. We need to have the invisible jet at some point, right?
Yes, and of course, let's remember. So Themyscira, the reason for the invisible jet, of course, is Themyscira has cloaking technology, which is why the invisible jet is invisible. So you could always do that, and I would imagine in the '70s, in the sequel, regardless of whatever we do in the sequel, we're gonna, she's gonna visit her mother. She's gonna, in some Wonder Woman movie, she's gonna mend fences with her mother, and they're gonna be able to.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I would imagine she'll give her something that's like a cloaking thing, so if she gets a jet, or if, I doubt the jet's going to be on the island, but somehow she might she might fly a jet to the island, then she'll give her the cloaking thing, then she'll.
Oh, I could see that. That'd be great. Okay.
I imagine maybe again in the '70s, what if Wonder Woman she makes some sort of alliance with the military, so she helps them out, kind of like the '70s show. '70s show she worked with.
That's
Steve
kind
Trevor.
of what I was pitching somewhat for my 1950s like nuclear warfare scenario.
Yeah, there you go. I think she has some military thing. She worked with worked with the military way back when, so she has some cachet. Right. Anyway, obviously not under the same. But you see what I'm saying with the whole fad thing, getting the costume in there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, last thing is just with Etta Candy. I would imagine I would like maybe the premise of the film is to work Etta Candy in there would be maybe not by the same actress, but you could always use that loophole if you really wanted to. Is that just looks a lot like her. I would imagine Wonder Woman and maybe Etta Candy's daughter. Going from England to wherever the setting in America is, which if I had to pick, again, Gateway City would be interesting because we never do Gateway City. But
I do San Francisco for obvious biased reasons.
Yes, but I'm just saying otherwise I go Washington, either Gateway City or Washington. That's where I go with Wonder Woman personally. But I'm saying I'd like if we could still work in Etta Candy in there and just have her daughter go.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that's really all I have for the 1977 version, just to kind of homage the TV show, and just homage the fun elements of Wonder Woman, because I've always had a take on Wonder Woman. I don't want to bore you to tears with it. Just basically a Wonder Woman who I want Wonder Woman as the icon, Wonder Woman as the woman who's going to stick up for the women and children, especially the kids. I'm saying that's the one we had way back in the '40s, but it's put it in the '70s. That's kind of what I'm going for.
Sure.
Okay, anyway, just do superhero out of do the superhero days as Wonder Woman.
Okay. All right, so I guess final thoughts really quick then, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Folks, I don't really have a ton to say about this movie. It does a lot of stuff so well, Dragon. It really does. It's got that whole, the camaraderie of war thing going really well. The ragtag team of heroes. I absolutely think Gal Gadot is fantastic as the main character. I think Chris Pine is fantastic as Colin Trevor. I called him Colin Trevors.
Colin, you were thinking Colin Trevorrow, weren't you?
Yes, I was thinking Colin Trevorrow.
By the way, just because we're calling you on stuff, it's Gal Gadot. I made sure it's Gadot.
I know. It's just easier to say Gadot because I always remember waiting for Gadot.
Yep.
But sure. I just think the movie does so many things so well that I think it's such a shame that it goes off the rails as much as it does for me in the third act, because if that third act ridiculousness didn't happen, if some of that action was trimmed down a little, if we didn't have some of the laugh out loud moments with the CG armor and the Nigel Thornberry mustache, it could have been a nearly perfect superhero movie, Dragon. It really could have been nearly perfect. As of now, I just think it's a very good movie. I don't think it transcends that level to greatness. And Ares is the first and foremost just standout problem with why it doesn't transcend the level to greatness for me. But overall, like I said, I wish that those flaws weren't there because they could have been so easily avoided and the rest of the movie just works so well for me. So, I might sound like I'm a bit harsher on this movie than other people are, but just like I said, it's just like 90% of the movie works super well, but then we get to the airy stuff and it just falls apart for me. So it's just a frustrating viewing experience in that way, Dragon. You know what I mean? Because it's so good up until that very end point. So that's really my final thoughts. It is great to see a female-led superhero movie. It's great to see that finally succeed, and Wonder Woman's such an iconic character, and this is a very fitting movie for her. And DC's kind of back on track. We'll see what happens with Wonder Woman.
A good kind of Wonder Woman 101.
I'm sorry, we'll see what happens with Justice League. But yeah, that's all I got. Like I said, it's a fantastic movie that gets turned into merely a really good movie through some crippling third act problems. All right.
Well, for me, I thought this movie was a great foundation to build the history of the DCEU on. It's a great pocket universe kind of film in a way. It's very kind of like it's sort of like your Ant-Man, Doctor Strange type thing. It's like kind of a great. It's off to the side. It's a prequel. It's for the most part it's a prequel.
Mm-hmm.
It's building the foundation. It's gonna give me a good introduction to another iconic character. It's a good story, not really worrying about kind of fitting into Batman v Superman or any of the other, or Suicide Squad or any of the other stuff. Again, it's kind of laying some new rails, so to speak.
Sure.
And Gal Gadot, of course, she's fantastic. The cast, I think the cast did a great job. Everyone was well cast.
I mean, even David Thewlis was well cast.
Certainly. And again, I think there's a class and a charm to the film. Again, very kind of Donner-esque, very kind of like Ernest and Donner-esque, and kind of what it's doing.
I think it's a good mix of like Richard Donner Superman and like Joe Johnson like Rocketeer. I think those are the two.
That's a very good. That's very good.
Really compare them to, yeah.
It's a really good comparison. Yes, I'm very much behind that. Yes, it's got heart. It's got heart. It's cool, and it's a little inspiring in places in a good way. It's really good, inspiring kind of moments. Again, that trench, the no man's land sequence. Again, it's got you. It doesn't. Here's a really great thing you said. It doesn't feel long or incomplete.
No, I think that third act goes on a little long.
Well, I'm saying though. My point is, it doesn't feel like it's like we need an extended cut, right?
It doesn't feel like Batman versus Superman long.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't feel, and it also feels like
it doesn't feel like a chore to sit through.
But also, it feels like a complete work. Like there wasn't any like additional studio BS. We didn't have to worry about like, hey, we had major edits. Like, hey, Steve Trevor's barely in this movie. We have to worry about
right. Oh,
we saw that Steve Trevor stuff in the trailer. What's going on? We don't have to worry about any of that. Again, it feels like a complete whole, which is something to be enjoyed. It's it's all.
It's definitely the most solid and complete movie in the DC extended universe so far.
Yeah, it's all there. It's faithful with some creative liberties here and there that benefited the film. Yeah, I'm saying like certain changes and stuff like not doing the whole the contest to see who gets takes Steve Trevor. They took some liberties, and I think stuff that paid off. We still have a lot of references, so it's very faithful. Honestly, I'd say very much how Deadpool's kind of like a Deadpool 101 for people is like Wonder Woman 101 for people.
Sure.
And look, just real quick, just on the thing, I'll say on the whole, still, I very much enjoy the film, and I'm sure again on the rewatch I'll definitely I'll have more issues with the third act. But again, I still like where the third act's coming from. But you're right, the battle goes on too long in the siege. Again, it's just that still doesn't. It doesn't really harsh my bells on the film.
CG and the mustache; those are like the three big sins.
That's what I'm saying. Is in the whole. Here's what my only really defense for it is. It's very simple. Is that I'm just saying, compare it to everything else. Just feels like okay, it's part of the course, but it doesn't feel like extensively bad. It just feels this film's really transcending everything else. Just once feels like okay, we're doing the one average thing. It's mainly in the DCU films, we're having like a big battle with like an Enchantress or a Doomsday, where we're kind of doing that. Where it's kind of part of the course for DC, but it doesn't. Again, it's not crippling the film. It's not killing it. We know it's. It doesn't feel. It just feels more part of the course than bad to me. But on the rewatch, I might change my tune on that. But again, it's still coming from an interesting place. Just like it kind of doesn't connect as well as it. Like the end of that fight to the beginning of that fight doesn't connect well.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And again, DC made a unanimously. It's kind of nice that at the very least, it's really nice that DC made a unanimously, at the very least, good film. It made a unanimously good film. There's nothing you can take away from that. I was so relieved, like, oh my god, DC, DC's finally can finally measure up to some of the Marvel films at last. Hooray!
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's good for DC and good for the character of Wonder Woman. 75 years, and she finally got. She finally got her bite at the apple, and it was really good. Not only does she has a good animated, not only does she have a good animated movie, she has a really good live action film that is as good as the animated movie.
Sure. Okay, folks. Well, thank you so much for listening to all this. I believe this was about 2 hours, so not too bad on the time. Probably a little less than 2 hours. And we will be back for a Captain America spoiler cast, a Captain Underpants.
But can we do a Captain America spoiler cast just for giggles?
No, we cannot.
Okay.
All right, folks. See you later.
Wonder Woman.
Oh, what a cute baby.